About a month ago, I beat one of the most challenging Pokemon games in a way that no one has ever managed to before. A game where it is impossible to use save states or duplicate rare candies, and where you can't just hack your Pokemon to have the exact EVs or levels you want. A game that is so difficult, some have said that a hardcore Nuzlocke of it would be borderline impossible to do, and in the 13 years since its release, no one has managed to complete one. The game I'm talking about is PokeMMO, a Pokemon MMORPG that encompasses the first 5 generations of Pokemon. Compared to the mainline games, PokeMMO offers a more competitive experience when completing the single-player campaign, particularly with gym battles and the Elite Four. NPC trainers have updated movesets and better AI, Elite Four members have 31 IVs across the board, and the game level caps you based on how many badges you have. While I have been playing Pokemon games since Red and Blue originally released, I consider myself a newbie when it comes to PokeMMO. I've only completed one region, Kanto, and I haven't really done any competitive battling, raids, alphas, or events. Most of my knowledge comes from playing the original games, so I don't know much about the PokeMMO specific mechanics. So naturally, I thought a hardcore Nuzlocke would be the perfect challenge for me. I know not everyone will know what that means, since I mostly make drumming videos, so let's go over the rules I set for this playthrough. Rule number 1, this is a Nuzlocke, so I can only catch the first encounter in each area, and if a Pokemon faints, it is considered dead and can't be used anymore. Additionally, I have to nickname every Pokemon I catch. I'll also be playing with Species Clause, which means if the first Pokemon I encounter is one I already have, I can skip that encounter and delay my catch until the next one, or I can choose to catch the duplicate. I know this is a bit less restrictive than how other people use Species Clause. The reason I played this way is mainly because I just didn't know at the time that Species Clause normally prevents you from catching the same species. There are 2 times in the run where one of my team members dies and I go to replace them in a route where I already have caught everything that appears at that route and I haven't used up my catch at that route yet. But I don't go on to use them for any important battles because I realized afterward that some people might kind of view that as breaking the rules. But I did want to explain why I caught those 2 Pokemon. I am curious though, so please comment and let me know. Are you allowed to catch anything in a route where you have every species already? I'm kind of new to Nuzlocking, so I don't know if there's a standard rule for what to do there. Rule number 2 is Hardcore mode. This means using no items in battle, held items are okay though, and your max level is the same as the next gym leader's ace Pokemon. So, for example, Brock's ace Pokemon is Onix, which is at level 12. That means I can't have any Pokemon over level 12 until I defeat Brock. This makes it so that fights are on even footing and I can't just outlevel my opponent and win that way. No items in battle also makes things interesting because I can't just use healing items or stat boosting moves. If I want to heal or boost stats, I need to commit a move or ability to doing that. Rule number 3 is what I'm going to call locked doors. This means that once I enter a gym, I can't leave until I either defeat the leader or my whole team faints. This could be particularly devastating because if I lose a critical team member during a gym trainer fight, I might not be able to beat the gym leader without making a swap. And this is exactly what happened during my last attempt. I lost a Gyarados to a Rapidash's Wild Charge in Blaine's gym, and I was only able to beat Blaine after losing, I think, 5 of my team members, at which point I chose to end the run because I didn't think I could make a viable B team with the Pokemon I had left. Rule number 4 is mandatory fights. This just means I have to fight every trainer, I can't just walk around them or avoid them. This combined with locked doors means I need to fight every trainer in every gym without swapping Pokemon from my PC and without using the Pokemon Center. Rule number 5 is Shiny Claws. Basically, this just means I'm allowed to catch a shiny if I do see one. Shiny odds in this game are something like 1 in 30,000, so this is pretty unlikely to come up. but I did want to be able to catch and use a shiny on the extremely rare chance that I happen to find one. I won't be doing any shiny hunting, so if I see one, it would just have to be when I'm playing normally. And finally, rule number 6 is single player, basically no GTL, no trading except to do trade evolutions, no links, and no buying RP. A GTL is like an online auction house where you can buy and sell Pokemon and items. Links are when you group up with other people and then you share certain bonuses like shiny charms. And RP is a currency that can be purchased with real life money to do things like slightly increase your shiny odds. I'm just interested in playing the base vanilla game without any extra advantages. So those are the rules I set out for this run. Let's go ahead and see how it turned out. Alright, so we wake up at home and find a stranger sleeping in our bed. So we go ahead and make our way out of here, because that's pretty creepy. And we let our mom know we're going to be leaving. She says Professor Oak is right next door. And he wants to make sure we get our very first Pokemon before we leave and go into the tall grass. His grandson Gary is here to also receive a Pokemon. And I'm going to go ahead and choose Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is our first gift Pokemon, and gift Pokemon in PokeMMO all have neutral nature and 15 IVs across the board. I mainly chose Bulbasaur because I figured I would want a little bit of an edge early on, especially against those first 3 gyms. Also, the utility of Bulbasaur is really high, learning moves like Sleep Powder, False Swipe, Sweet Scent, and Leech Seed. Now Gary picks Charmander specifically to counter us with the types, and on to our first rival battle. Now this one's just a tackle fest, so we're going to speed right through. And our first of hopefully many victories against our rival Gary. With that out of the way, we head north to Viridian City where we enter the Pokemon Mart, and they let us know that they have a Pokeball that needs to be delivered to Professor Oak, so we go ahead and do that. And then Oak lets us know that he has a special request. He wants us to complete the Pokedex. I don't have the heart to let him know that I'm doing a Hardcore Nuzlocke, so it's pretty much going to be impossible for me. Luckily, Gary thinks he can do the job all by himself, so we'll see about that. We head next door to Gary's sister's house to pick up the town map from Daisy. And then it's on to Route 1 for our first encounter. I'm honestly pretty happy with anything here. Rattata has the incredible Guts ability, Pidgey is quite a useful flyer, and there's something like a 2% chance to get a Pikachu here. That would be pretty incredible against Misty. We end up getting the Sentret, which I'm happy about because Sentret is an incredible HM friend. I think he can learn 4 or 5 different HM moves, so we're going to be using him to navigate the overworld. I don't want to risk a critical tackle killing him here, so I go ahead and throw Pokeballs even though he's not even quite at half health yet. And I'm going to name the Sentret Handpan after Wild Arms 1. There is kind of a mouse creature you use in the overworld to navigate puzzles and interact with the world. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing with Sentret. We're going to be using HMs to do puzzles and interact with the overworld, so I thought it was fitting. We move on to our Route 2 encounter, and it is a Bellsprout. Bellsprout's pretty great for the first few gyms, so I'm not at all sad about this. I think I would have preferred the Oddish, because Oddish gets Sweet Scent a little bit sooner. But Bellsprout does get Sweet Scent as well. We actually make the mistake of evolving it, and then we don't get Sweet Scent until like level 31 or 32. It's pretty brutal. IVs are just kind of okay. And we're going to name this one Saitan after a Xenogears character. A lot of my nicknames are going to be based on old JRPGs. I'm not the best at coming up with nicknames. Our Viridian Forest encounter is a Metapod. I'm pretty thrilled about this. Butterfree gets an ability called Compound Eyes, which increases his accuracy, which makes Sleep Powder something like 97.5% chance to hit. And the IVs on this Metapod are pretty incredible, actually. 29 speed means we are going to go hardcore into speed, try to outspeed everything and put them to sleep. And I'm going to name her Annalise after a Trails in the Sky character. And then our last catch before Brock is going to be on Route 22. I would love to get a Nidoran male here. Looks like we get Nidoran female. Also pretty happy about this catch. Nidoran female is pretty tanky and can learn some helpful utility moves like Toxic Spikes. IVs are nothing to write home about. And I decide to name this one Dominia, also after a Xenogears character. And now that we have our squad for challenging the first gym, we're also going to do our next rival fight. Our Pokemon are about level 10, level 11 here. Gary leads with Charmander. We're going to lead with Butterfree. Not the greatest lead against Charmander. Another thing I'm trying to be mindful of is the EVs. So I am going to try to EV train all of my Pokemon and make sure that they don't acquire any EVs that might be detrimental or just not as beneficial as the build I want to go for. So if I'm using a lead or I do a switch that doesn't seem to make sense, it's probably because I'm trying to get a specific EV. Get a couple quick attacks in there. And just like that, rival fight number 2 is completed. Gary gives us a handful of cash that we can use to buy Pokeballs with. And then it's off to the first gym, where it looks like Gary has already been here. We will speed through the gym trainer battle real quick here. Now I have Bellsprout and Bulbasaur still at level 11 here, even though they can get to level 12 before I fight Brock. So I want to make sure they both get enough experience to level up here. And part of the challenge of the locked doors modifier is having to do calculations or estimations about how much experience I think I'll get. That way I don't accidentally overlevel, but I'm not too underleveled either. With the gym trainer out of the way, we go ahead and use items to heal up between battles. And here is a look at our team so far, all level 12. You can see the EVs I've been working on, their IVs, their moves. And yeah, let's put Bulbasaur up front and do it. Brock's Pokemon are all rock hard. He wants to let us know for some reason. he's going to lead with Onyx, his ace. I think both Onyx and Geodude have Sturdy here. So we are going to start off with a Leech Seed. Since we know we need to do at least 2 moves anyway, we want to get the most healing we can out of Leech Seed. Go ahead and Razor Leaf. And because of Onyx's incredible defense, even though it's 4x weak to grass and grass is stabbed from me, it's still not quite enough to kill it. So we take one more Rock Tomb before finishing Onyx off. Now Razor Leaf can miss, so it's definitely not guaranteed that that would have happened there. And at this point I'm probably thinking which of my Pokemon can afford to get some more defense EVs. I decide to switch to Bellsprout. And it looks like we can just Vine Whip this guy to death. And the first of 8 gym badges down. With Brock out of the way, we make our way towards Mount Moon. Go ahead and pick up a Water Gun TM here, and our encounter for the route is Geodude. Geodude's a pretty good encounter. I would love to get the Sturdy ability here. Clefairy would also be a really good encounter. Tragically, our Geodude has Rock Head instead of Sturdy, and we're going to name him the Boulder after an Avatar character. For Route 4, we're going to purchase the Magikarp from the Pokemon Center. And even though this is technically a gift, this is the one gift Pokemon that isn't neutral natured and 15 IVs across the board. We get incredibly lucky with the Adamant nature. And look at these IVs, absolutely off the chart, perfect speed. We're going to go ahead and name him after a Wild Arms Guardian and get straight to work on evolving him. Because our level cap for Misty is 20, which is just barely enough to get that Gyarados. And you can see our EVs, we've already maxed out the attack EV. There is an area in Mount Moon where the Paris encounter rate is like 90%. It's like between all the floors. So you can train attack pretty easily here, and that's exactly what I did. In Misty's gym, we see that Gary's already been here, and we start making our way through the gym trainers. Gyarados is able to defeat Horsey no problem, but I'm thinking about the next Pokemon, which is going to be a Shelder, and I don't think I want to get the defense EV on Gyarados, so we're going to switch over to Ivysaur. And then this next fight should be no problem. This trainer only has a Goldeen, which gives out an attack EV, which means we can do the entire thing with Gyarados. Alright, with the gym trainers out of the way, we heal up our Pokemon, and here is a look at our team. All level 20. You can take a look at their EVs and IVs again. And here are their moves. We're going to lead with Gyarados. We're going to hope that Misty leads with Starmie, because we would love to get the super effective bite off. Looks like she leads with Psyduck. A couple bites and Psyduck is taken care of. And then she sends out that Starmie. We're hoping not to get confused here. And we avoid the confusion. Looks like 2 bites will do it, that's perfect. Another Water Pulse. This time she does get the confusion off. But we're able to get a bite through anyway. Now at this point the fight is pretty much in the bag, but I make a switch here because I don't want to deal with the randomness of confusion. And then back to Gyarados to reduce Goldeen's attack and finish the job off. Confused again. This time we're going to be impatient and just go for it. Before switching over to Bellsprout. And ending the fight after taking a super effective peck to the face. 2 out of 8 done. We're 25% done. The early gyms are quite difficult because you don't have as many resources to utilize. I don't have a lot of Pokemon sitting back at my PC that I can think and strategize with. You know, I've got fewer than 10 at this point. Gyarados wants to learn Waterfall, which is a critically important attack-based water move. And with Misty out of the way, we head up to Nugget Bridge to do our 3rd rival fight. This time we're leading with Butterfree, and Gary's going to send out Abra. And the reason I'm leading Butterfree here is because the EVs that Gary's Pokemon have are generally better for Butterfree than Gyarados. I do think Gyarados is probably my strongest member at this point, and definitely better suited against Abra and Charmeleon. But I don't want to risk getting special attack EVs on Gyarados. Now we're thinking about how the rain is going to help us withstand an Ember, and we're thinking about whether we want to put this Charmeleon to sleep and start using moves on him, or maybe do a switch. Charmeleon does give out 2 special attack EVs, and I think Butterfree is the only member of my team, maybe some on Ivysaur too, who wants special attack. Tragically, they're both weak to Charmeleon. We go for the Compound Eyes boosted Sleep Powder. then start hammering away with Psybeam. Looks like it's going to take about 3. Now Gary sends out Pidgey, and since Pidgey gives out Speed EVs, we're okay to switch to Gyarados. Who easily destroys Pidgey with the Adamant 252 attack EV Waterfall. And it's going to be the same situation for Rattata. Absolutely destroyed with the Waterfall. And now Gary is 0 for 3. With that out of the way, we head south to Vermilion City and pick up the old rod from the fishing guru. We also make our way over to the Pokemon Fan Club where we get the bicycle ticket, which we can exchange for the bicycle. Really speed the run along. Now we do a little bit of fishing prior to heading onto the SS Anne boat, and you can see the route in the upper left corner here is its own distinct route titled SS Anne. With the old rod, you can really only encounter Magikarp and Tentacool, so the Tentacool encounter is basically guaranteed here. We don't love the adamant nature, but Tentacool is a pretty amazing tank, so overall we're happy to have this Pokemon. Next we head into Diglett's Tunnel, hoping to pick up a ground type to use against Lieutenant Surge. By far the most likely encounter, Diglett. And we do get the Diglett. Which we catch. And with the plus speed nature, this thing will pretty much outspeed everything in the game. Super abusable with the Arena Trap ability, which we did not get. We name her Daisy after Gary's very helpful sister, and we name our Tentacool Tarlock after another Avatar character. And then we make our way onto the boat proper, where we do a bunch of different trainer battles. Again, we have to fight literally everyone. Before we run into Gary again for the 4th time. Who invited Gary on this luxury cruise liner? Gary leads with Raticate, and at this point in the run, we are about 19 hours in. We are not breaking any speed records. We've caught 15 different species, including evolutions. Waterfall absolutely destroys the Raticate. Gary sends out Kadabra, and at this point I do believe I have Gyarados' EVs completely maxed, so it's not a problem that this Kadabra gives out special attack EVs, because we just don't have room to gain any more EVs. We know a Crunch will make short work of Kadabra, who has paper-thin defenses. We get the crit, not that we need it. And I cannot stress enough how helpful this Gyarados has been so far at this point in the run. Like, this is not an easy fight by any means. Pidgeotto actually gets a quick attack off before getting swept up by the waterfall. And at this point, Gary's gotta be hurting for cash. We go ahead and get HM01 cut from the Cut Master on board. And then before heading onto the gym, we do a bit of training against the trainers here. And this is a particularly scary fight in which our Butterfree almost dies. Completely unnecessary too, these are just mistakes on my part. We put the Voltorb to sleep thinking we'll be pretty safe, and it goes ahead and uses Thunder, which I'm definitely not expecting at this point in the game. Now I should definitely make a switch here, but instead we're getting greedy, we're worried about getting the wrong EVs on people, like I don't think the Geodude wants a speed EV. So we risk putting the Voltorb to sleep again, even though there is that 2.5% chance that Sleep Powder will miss and will just die. Luckily, the Quiver Dance boosted Silver Wind is able to take it out in one hit. And now again, instead of making the switch, we do Sleep Powder, which can totally miss here. Like, low probability events are basically guaranteed to occur on a long enough time frame. And this run is going to last 100 hours. So I do think it's a mistake to be playing the odds like this, even though it is 97.5% chance. And lo and behold, Magnemite wakes up and tries to use a Zap Cannon, which, thank God, I think only has like 50% accuracy, because that definitely would have killed our Butterfree. We do a little bit of fishing back in Viridian City to acquire a Poliwag. And at this point we have both Sleep Powder and False Swipe, so catching is pretty easy. After taking a look at the Poliwag, I decide that I'm probably going to evolve it into a Politoed. It's got perfect special defense IVs, so maybe this will be useful for breeding potential later. I decide to name the Poliwag Frog after a Chrono Trigger character. And after that we make our way into the third gym, which is Lieutenant Surge. As always, Gary has made his way here first. Go ahead and speed through these trainer battles real quick. Lieutenant Surge is the Lightning American, and he's famous for using his Pokemon in war. And this is one of those instances where I love the stereotypes about Americans found in other media. So the stereotype of just being like really gung-ho pro-war type guy. Lieutenant Surge, the American. I don't know, it's giving like Bandit Keith vibes, like he's gonna throw a hot dog at me or something, I don't know. We do a little bit of healing here between trainer battles. Of course, we're still not allowed to use the Pokemon Center, so we have to make sure our healing items are pretty stacked. And we're trying to get enough experience to level up our Diglett and evolve it before the gym fight, before the gym leader fight. And as always, we're trying to strike that delicate balance of just enough experience to get to the levels and evolutions I want, but not so much experience that any of my Pokemon go over that level limit. We heal up one last time, and then Lieutenant Surge has us rummaging through garbage looking for switches to his little puzzle. We switch some items around on our Pokemon, giving the Silk Scarf to Furret to boost normal moves, and an Oran Berry to Daisy, just in case. You never know when a little bit of extra healing is going to help. Here is what our team looks like going into the fight. Several of our Pokemon are underleveled. I believe 27 is the cap here. And if we weren't doing locked doors, we could just leave and train up to 27, but I told myself I wanted to do locked doors, so here we go. He leads with Magnemite, and we lead with Dugtrio. Magnemite is super annoying between Levitite and Sturdy. But I think this one has Sturdy, so we are using a Slash to just knock out a little bit of HP before getting in there with a Dig and finishing things off. Next up is Voltorb, who we're hoping we can just dig into Oblivion. We do, but tragically we get affected by Voltorb's 30% static chance, which could definitely jeopardize the rest of this fight. Here comes the Raichu, Lieutenant Surge's Ace. Uses Fake Out, which I don't think is on the wiki. For a run like this, you use the PokeMMO wiki a lot, and it is not always up to date. I definitely ran into multiple instances where a move or ability was wrong, and luckily it didn't completely compromise the run, but just know that you can't rely on that information. And I'm totally part of the problem. It's not like I'm going on the wiki and making those edits to correct things. I'm just trying to get through my game to the next battle. We switch on over to Furret, knowing we can't take any more damage on Dugtrio. And luckily the Silk Scarf boosted Quick Attack is enough to finish the job. Now we've got Elekid, and I am once again thinking about which EVs my Pokemon can afford to get. I don't feel super confident about Furret's ability to finish the fight here, but I also don't want to get a unnecessary EV on someone else. I do decide to switch to the Weepinbell here. And lucky I do, because there comes a Brick Break that definitely would have done some serious damage, if not outright killed Furret. And then we switch to Acid for the last move, just because Acid has 100% accuracy, so we don't want to risk a Razor Leaf missing here. And amazingly, we now have 3 different badges and no Pokemon deaths so far. One close call with that Butterfree fight. Now we are heading into Rock Tunnel, and this is an area where we're going to use a lure because Charmeleon is actually a possible encounter here if you are using the lure. And we would love to get a Charmeleon encounter. However, it looks like Onyx is going to be our encounter here, which we're not at all sad about. I love Onyx, it's definitely one of my favorite Pokemon. I think he's super cool. Bold Nature is not the greatest. We are intending to use that attack stat a bit. IVs are through the roof though. And we do manage to get the Sturdy ability this time, which is absolutely huge. Steelix could be a valuable Stealth Rock user later on. And then we head on over to Route 9 where we catch our second snake of the day, Ekans. This one has a brave nature, so we're happy about the attack boost here. And then finally we hit that critical level 32 where we can learn Sweet Scent. Sweet Scent is a move you can use in the overworld to encounter hordes, basically groups of 3 Pokemon at a time. And the horde encounter table is different than the regular encounter table, so we can actually use Sweet Scent to guarantee specific encounters. And here on Route 11 we're going to guarantee the Drowsy encounter. I'm thinking that Drowsy is going to be super helpful against Sabrina. With that high special defense and being a psychic type, it's going to resist psychic moves fairly well. The IVs are nothing to write at home about, but still happy to pick up another member here. Now we head on over to Route 6 where we're doing a guaranteed Magnemite encounter, and this is another one of the great tragedies of the run. I am super impatient here and use Earthquake, thinking that the odds of all 3 of them not having Sturdy is pretty small, but of course all 3 of them don't have Sturdy, so I kill them all and get no catches there. After that we head on over to Celadon City where we pick up our gift Eevee encounter, and this is going to be one of the most important Pokemon for the run. We're intending to evolve this Eevee into an Umbreon because Umbreon's defensive stats are absolutely stacked. We go ahead and pick up HM2 Fly, even though we don't have any Pokemon that can use Fly yet. And then we are over to Route 25 at night, where we do a guaranteed Oddish encounter with Sweet Scent and manage to catch our Oddish here. I think Oddish is a pretty great catch for a Nuzlocke. Blossom can learn Quiver Dance, and I love any move that'll boost 3 different stats at once. Minus special attack nature is not great, but it's what we got. And we're always happy to have another Sweet Scent user. Particularly a low level one, like maybe we can use this Oddish when we switch over to another region. Route 16, we're going for a nighttime encounter here. I want to say there's like a Murkrow possibility here, but instead we get the Grimer. I'm not in love with Grimer, he's just kind of okay. I love Murkrow though, so that's a little bit sad for me. Next we're heading over to Route 7 for another nighttime Sweet Scent encounter. I believe this one is 50-50 Rattata Houndour. We would obviously love the Houndour, although Rattata is also quite nice as long as it has the Guts ability, which is something that will greatly boost attack stat once you are afflicted by a status, and you can just always go into a fight with like Poison or Burn if you want to. Tragically, this Rattata does not have guts, so it's probably just going to sit in the box. We name it Pashmina after a Hamtaro character, and then make our way over to Route 8 where we do a morning Sweet Scent encounter with a guaranteed Growlithe, which we catch. The IVs on this thing are pretty bad, but we are happy to have another Intimidate user, and Arcanine in particular is going to be useful against our next gym fight. We name her Azula after an Avatar character and Grimer Osmosis, and head into our fourth gym, which is Erika. As per usual, Gary has been here, and we'll just kind of speed through the gym trainer battles. I don't remember any of these being particularly challenging or noteworthy, but I did want to include the footage just to show you guys. I did fight everybody, I did use locked doors, so just didn't want there to be any doubt there. I will say probably a good half of the run is just me doing EV training or money grinding or level grinding, and that stuff is pretty repetitive and usually very low risk, so I don't include a lot of it, but just know that between all these important fights, there's like hours and hours of grinding specific locations for specific EVs just to give myself that slight competitive edge with the extra stats in the categories where I want them. You can see I've also done some evolutions at this point. We've got Arcanine, we've got Arbok, we've got Hypno. Overall, our team is looking pretty good for this gym. Between a fire, a poison, and a psychic type. And Butterfree's got a flying move, I think. We head on into Erika's inner circle. Healing up between battles. Now we're leading with Hypno. And yeah, Butterfree has Air Slash, so that's going to be pretty helpful. And then finally our last gym trainer fight. And then here is our team heading into Erika. Yeah, you can see the moves and EVs on everyone. Even the Furret is EV trained. Butterfree has a sharp beak to power up the flying type moves. Right, and Erika leads with Victory Bell. We're starting off with Hypno. Giga Drain takes a decent chunk out of Hypno, but you know, that special defense is really good, so it's going to take 4 or 5 actually. Psybeam is not quite enough to one-hit KO it. We do get a confusion off, but it looks like it is irrelevant. We take another Giga Drain, bringing us down to about half before finishing it off with Psybeam. And then it looks like Erika is sending out Blossom. Makes sense, Blossom isn't poison type, meaning she's not going to be weak to Hypno's psychic moves. We switch on over to Arcanine. We do a Fire Fang, but its damage gets weakened by the Aqua Berry. We take a super effective Hidden Power, but then finish it off with Fire Fang. Now we've got Tangela, and I'm thinking about making a switch here because I can see on the wiki that Tangela knows Ancient Power, a rock-type special attack move that would be super effective against Arcanine. I'm trying to think who can take a rock hit. And we land on Arbok, who I have nicknamed Ouroboros, also after Trails in the Sky. And then finally, all she has left is Vileplume. Which we're happy to take out with a couple poison jabs, as long as we can live through the natural gift, and we can. Just like that, Erika has been defeated, meaning we are now 50% done with our quest to get all the badges. At this point, I did want to show off the team I've been training. I've got about 10 different fully trained Pokemon at this point, so you can sort of see all their stats and moves here. After beating Erika, we make our way over to the Celadon City Game Corner. There's a strange man who seems to be obsessed with a poster on the wall. We quickly knock him out, and he warns us that he is going to go talk to the boss. And just a few short minutes later, we are at Giovanni the boss. And he wants to fight us for our insolence. We lead with Arcanine, hoping to get the Intimidate off. But tragically, Giovanni leads with Kangaskhan, immune to my Intimidate. Probably the worst possible lead for us here, but we get pretty lucky here with the burn. And Mega Punch does a pitiful amount of damage, with me being 5 levels over. Alright, now we've got Murkrow. Fire Fang is not quite enough to one-hit KO it, but we get the flinch. And then Extreme Speed just to guarantee no shenanigans. He sends out Nidorina. We swap over to Venusaur. I think we must have known that Nidorina had Water Pulse here. It was probably on the wiki. We try to go for the sleep, but it doesn't quite work. But we are draining enough health with Leech Seed such that Nidorina is essentially doing no damage to us. So we're feeling pretty good about the fight. We hurt ourselves in confusion a bit. Nidorina switches to Crunch. We hurt ourselves again. I'd rather get all the bad luck out of the way at moments like this where I'm not immediately in danger of dying. And we go for False Swipe knowing that Leech Seed will just finish it off. And with Nidorina down, that just leaves Nidorino. And we're going to go for something similar here. A little bit of Leech Seed. It connects. Nidorino is definitely dishing out more damage than Nidorino was, but now that we've got a Leech Seed landed and he has nobody to switch to, we can go on over to Hypno. Crit hit on the Shadow Claw. Still doesn't even do half though. And Psybeam finishes the fight off. With Giovanni gone, we're able to pick up the Sylph Scope and head on over to the Pokemon Tower now that we can see the ghosts here. And wouldn't you know it, our rival Gary is here, taunting us despite the fact that he has not won a single battle against us. He leads with Kadabra, we lead with Arcanine. Pretty easy crunch for us here. Switches to Gyarados. And I think we're going to do the same. That way he's the one with lower attack now. Water Pulse barely scratches me. But he does get the confusion off. We go for the crunch anyway. It connects and does almost 84% damage. That's incredible. Whereas his bite does a measly 9%. That's 2 out of 5 down. Here comes the Charmeleon for some reason. We obviously just waterfall it to death. Eevee, we're going to do the exact same thing. We got so incredibly lucky with this Gyarados, you guys. Pidgeotto gets a quick attack off before falling to the waterfall. Gyarados is really carrying us for some of these rival fights. And Gary's on his way with his classic Smell You Later. And our first encounter is a Ghastly, which we go ahead and catch. Nature is okay. Obviously, minus attack is where we want the minus to be. IVs are pretty terrible though. It does have Levitate. Alright, we make our way to the top of the tower and save Mr. Fuji, who brings us back to his house, where he wants to give us the Poke Flute, which we can use to wake Snorlax up. But before we do that, we go back up to the Pokemon Tower and get our Soothe Bell, because this is going to be a critical tool for evolving our Eevee into Umbreon. Alright, now we go south to wake up that Snorlax. And this fight actually takes a bit of time. I switch in and out of my 2 Intimidate users to lower his attack to the lowest level. We're false swiping him down to 1, we're sleeping him, and this Snorlax counts as a gift Pokemon, so he's going to have the neutral nature with 15 IVs across the board. And we're pretty happy about Thick Fat actually. That might come in handy in the Elite Four with some of the ice moves. We name him Belzik after a Wild Arms character, and head on over to the Fighting Dojo in Saffron City. We'll speed through these gym trainer battles real quick. Should be a lot of Butterfree, Air Slash, and Hypno Psybeam. Nothing too scary here. Looks like we can one-hit KO pretty much everything. Especially if we add the Sharp Beak to Butterfree, which definitely should have been there from the get-go. We one-hit KO a Pokemon that even out-levels us. We get Psychic, probably the best Psychic type move, in my opinion, for this generation. And with all 4 gym trainers defeated, we go ahead and heal up before fighting the Gym Master. Who leads with Hitmontop. We lead with Hypno. And manage to one-hit KO it with the Psychic. Next comes Poliwrath. We try for the same thing, but it's not quite enough to get the one-hit KO. Poliwrath uses Payback. That's scary. That is scary. Go ahead and finish off with one more Psychic. And now he sends out Hitmonlee. After a bit of deliberation, we decide to switch over to Gyarados. We get a helpful Intimidate off, and High Jump Kick, despite being not very effective, does almost a third of our health. But Waterfall does all of his health. And lastly, we have Hitmonchan. We definitely have to be careful about the Thunder Punch. And because we're worried about the Thunder Punch, we switch out to our other Intimidate user. Here comes that Thunder Punch. Definitely would have killed Gyarados. We're going to go ahead and Fire Fang, which gets rid of half of his health. And then we get paralyzed. And decide to switch out to Venusaur. Hitmonchan heals a little bit. We try to finish the fight off with a Petal Dance. It's not quite enough. And we get frozen solid in the process. Now Venusaur is at death's door, so we have to make another switch. This time it's going to be to Arcanine. To get one more Intimidate off. And knowing we can resist the Ice Punch. Before finishing the job with an Extreme Speed. That way we go first even though we're paralyzed. And with that, the Fighting Gym has been defeated. Now we head on over to Fuchsia City, where we're able to get our Good Rod. And we go for a Sweet Scent encounter on Route 15, where it's Nidorino. I believe this is a guaranteed Nidorino encounter for me. We go ahead and catch him. Neutral nature. Okay IVs except for speed. Now we're going to use that Good Rod to fish at Vermilion City and get our encounter here, which is going to be a Chinchou. Pretty excellent IVs and the incredibly helpful Volt Absorb ability. Now we go on down to Route 13 for another Good Rod encounter, and we get the Horsey. Horsey is incredible for the Nuzlocke. Neutral nature, we're never too sad about neutral because it could always be worse. And look at that, perfect special attack. That's just what you want to see. Now we head on over to Route 14 to get our encounter here. And it looks like it's a Pidgeotto, which means we're now going to be able to fly. That's right, we haven't been able to fly this whole game so far. We're going to name her Calamity after a Wild Arms character. And use the Good Rod in Fuchsia City to get a Goldeen. Go for the paralysis to make her easier to catch, and she uses Horn Drill, a one-hit KO move. And we're like, oh, heck no, heck no. We need to go for the catch. We cannot risk getting hit by a Horn Drill. And thankfully we do manage to get it on the first ball. Now we're using our good rod down on Route 19. And we're getting a Krabby encounter here, which we go ahead and catch. Absolutely terrible IVs for an absolutely terrible Pokemon. Now we head on over to Route 17 for an encounter here, where we get Ponyta. We'll start off with a false swipe, and Ponyta puts us to sleep. We probably should have put it to sleep, which we'll try to do now. Ponyta traps us with the fire spin, so we cannot switch out at this point. We're still asleep, this is getting pretty scary. Flame Wheel does a full third of our health, but thankfully it's because it's a crit. We try to switch and we cannot because we are trapped by the fire spin. So now we're thinking, okay, what is our other out to not lose Venusaur? Well, catching the Ponyta. We use an Ultra Ball and manage to catch it on the first try. This one also has a neutral nature. And Flash Fire. Next we are fighting our rival Gary at Silphco before heading on over to Giovanni. Gary leads with Gyarados. We're starting out with Steelix this time, and we're at the point where we can actually start using Stealth Rock, which is going to be a critically important move for our run. And we know we can get the Stealth Rock off every time because we've got Sturdy. So worst case scenario, he will reduce us down to 1 health, but we'll still get the Stealth Rock off. We switch to Tentacruel, who's a decent tank and can resist a water move. We briefly consider using Toxic Spikes, but ultimately go with the Poison Jab. This Gyarados knows Thunderbolt, which means our Gyarados cannot go up against it. Thankfully, Tentacruel has the special defense to withstand a couple of those before taking out Gyarados. Gary sends out his Alakazam. And we are obviously going to make the switch to Umbreon, knowing that he's likely to use a Psychic move. We start stacking up stats. Stealth Rock absolutely shreds the Charizard, bringing it down to half health immediately. Calm Mind boosted Dark Pulse does 38% damage. Flamethrower for a third of our health, but then Dark Pulse to kill the Charizard. And we also have leftovers at this point, because you can pick that up right under the Snorlax with the item finder. Gary sends out his Leafeon. And we're going to make the switch because even though we boosted our special defense, Leafeon is definitely an attacker and knows a fighting type move even. So we're able to switch to Arbok to resist his moves and get a stab super effective poison move off. which finishes Leafeon. Now we're going to see Pidgeot. The Stealth Rock should do a quarter of its health. And we can switch on over to Snorlax, another one of our tanks. Pidgeot hurts itself a bit with its moves, and we do a Body Slam, paralyzing it and taking it down to one hit range. And Pidgeot actually takes itself out with takedown recoil damage, leaving only the Alakazam. We're going to go ahead and switch back to Umbreon, same deal as before, but this time Alakazam goes for the Recover instead of a Psychic type move. We're also able to recover a little bit using our leftovers. And now we're going to go for our attack-based dark move rather than our special attack-based dark move, because we know that Alakazam has really, really bad defenses. It looks like it will only take 2 pursuits to take it out. Alakazam starts using Recover over and over. But we can do more than 50% with each pursuit, so it's sort of a lost cause for Alakazam at this point. Again, we see the Recover. And again, we see the Pursuit. Getting very, very close now. We see one last Recover, and then this Pursuit should be enough to finish the fight. Still at no deaths, despite a couple close calls. Another wad of cash from Gary. And then our Saffron City encounter is actually going to be this gift Lapras. This is actually the reason we didn't pick up Hitmonchan or Hitmonlee earlier, is we wanted to make sure we didn't use up our encounter for the area. Now we head on over to Giovanni, our second fight against him. He's got a Rhyhorn for the lead, and we are going to start off with Umbreon. We're sort of hoping to stack enough stats here that we can resist any of his special attacks, and we can recover with Moonlight. Giovanni can't quite make up his mind about who he wants to use. Switching to the Nidoqueen, where our Dark Pulse does even more damage. We Calm Mind some more, because Sludge Bomb is a special attacking move, so it feels pretty safe to stack more stats at this point. And Nidoqueen busts out the Superpower, which does about 40% of my health, while we are still stacking stats. We're going to go for the Moonlight to heal back up to full. Boy, do we need it, because Nidoqueen is using yet another superpower. But with each use of that move, it lowers its own attack, making future uses of it weaker and weaker. We're going to Moonlight again here, just to get back up to full, but now we are unfortunately poisoned. switch on over to Dark Pulse, which should hit pretty hard at this point. You know, for an Umbreon that's not trained in special attack anyway. Alright, we're going to switch on over to Tentacruel because Umbreon has done enough of its job. Superpower is pitifully weak at this point. Which means we can sort of safely stack our own stats here. This time we're going to sharply raise our defense. Before finishing the Nidoqueen off with a Surf. Now Giovanni sends out Nidoking. And same deal, we're going to try to finish it off with a Surf. It's got Thunderbolt. The type coverage is really, really good here. Really scary. We do exactly 75% with Surf. And we're thinking about whether we want to risk a critical hit Thunderbolt or whether we want to make a switch here. We are going to make the switch. And we're immune to Thunderbolt. And we're hoping Steelix can finish the job. Looks like she can. Now Giovanni sends out Honchkrow again. And we're going to go with Gyro Ball. And again with the type coverage, Honchkrow knows Heat Wave. Whereas Gyro Ball is not doing a very impressive amount of damage. Which makes sense, we are primarily training Steelix in defensive stats. But we still don't love to see it. Now we're going to switch on over to our Golem, who is better able to resist the Heat Wave, and who has his own super effective move to use against Honchkrow. But we get outsped and flinched. Golem does get the Rock Slide off, and thankfully finishes the Honchkrow. Now is the Kangaskhan. And boy do I hate this Kangaskhan. We didn't bring either of our Intimidate users to this fight. And I think Kangaskhan played a large role in that decision. We switched to Hypno knowing that the fighting type move is likely here. And a Stab Return powered up by a normal gem does a crazy amount of damage against Hypno. We've got to make yet another switch. Now we're going into Snorlax. And at this point we're definitely starting to worry about whether we might take a loss of some kind at this fight. Body Slam brings Kangaskhan down to just a sliver, probably 1 health exactly. It uses Brick Break against me. But our defenses are so stacked that even though it's super effective, it barely puts a dent in. Now all he's got left is Rhyhorn, probably his weakest Pokemon. So we're feeling a bit more confident. We go for a Crunch. It knows Zap Cannon. Yeah, that would destroy Gyarados. These type coverage moves make it really, really hard to use Gyarados. Now Snorlax is paralyzed. But we're still going to keep trying with Crunch. It connects. Now Rhyhorn switches over to return. We get another crunch through our paralysis. And then finally it switches to drill run before we get the very last crunch we need off, finishing the fight, again with no deaths. Giovanni promises to get his revenge, and we get our Master Ball from the Silphco president. And now we're heading down to Route 5, because at this point we have Mean Look, which is the main reason I avoided some of these encounters, because I didn't want to run into an Abra and have it teleport away. We get the Mankey encounter, which we catch. And then it's off to Sabrina's gym. Where we have to fight every trainer in here, which makes the teleport puzzle a little bit annoying. And once again, we'll just kind of speed through here. In my opinion, Sabrina is one of the most challenging fights in the entire run, and a big part of why we chose Umbreon over another evolution, and why we chose Eevee instead of another encounter, is because we really thought we needed the Umbreon in order to defeat Sabrina. Between Umbreon, Snorlax, and Hypno, we're hoping to have quite a few tanky guys who can eat some of these strong special attack hits. Heal up a little bit between the gym trainer fights. And another thing we're having to be mindful of for these fights, especially as we get more and more gym trainers, is the PP of our moves. We do have some PP restoration, but because they're a little bit harder to come by, I don't like to use it unless I absolutely have to. So we're trying to be mindful about how many times we use each move. Teleporting around, trying to make sure we really find everyone and fight everyone. Mr. Mime knows Focus Blast and does way more damage than I'm comfortable with. Knowing that a crit might take Snorlax out, we have to make the switch. Lots of teleporting, really making sure that we fought every trainer in here as we try to make our way towards Sabrina. And one last bit of healing before we head on over to the gym leader. We don't have this puzzle memorized, so we're figuring it out in real time. Here's what our team looks like going into the fight. You can see our EVs and IVs again, our movesets. And now nothing left to it but to do it. Okay, Sabrina leads with her Slowbro. We are starting off with Umbreon. We're really hoping we can just max out on Calm Mind and just sweep the whole fight. That is the hope here. And it's looking promising with how much damage Scald does. We get our second Calm Mind off. Scald doing less and less damage, which with each successive blow. And we do a Dark Pulse to see roughly how much damage we're able to do at this point, and it's not quite enough to one-hit KO Slowbro. Now, in my opinion, this is probably a mistake rewatching this fight. Like, I definitely should have stacked Calm Mind to the max possible before knocking out the Slowbro. Because, yeah, you can see Dark Pulse is not enough to one-hit KO the Mr. Mime here. Whereas it probably would be if we had 5 stacks of Calm Mind. And we're realizing that, trying to get another Calm Mind off. Okay, Mr. Mime is out of the way. Next up is Alakazam. And we go with Payback because, again, this is an attack-based move, and we know the Alakazam line has paper-thin defenses. We're able to get the one-hit KO on Sabrina's ace, which always feels good. She sends out Espeon now, so it's a battle of evolutions. It does know a super effective Signal Beam, but at this point our special defense is through the roof. And we give it a bit of our Dark Pulse. It goes for the heal. But we know our Dark Pulse does more than 50% with each hit, which means it's a foregone conclusion, and Espeon faints, leaving only Sabrina's Jinx left. She uses Ice Beam, probably hoping to get a freeze off, and we are able to one-hit KO with Dark Pulse, And yeah, Umbreon just makes an absolute mockery of this gym. So for anyone who's having trouble with Sabrina on a Nuzlocke or a Hardcore Nuzlocke, definitely consider going with Umbreon. Okay, next we are going into the Fuchsia City Gym to fight Koga, the Poison-type Master. Gary has also been here. It's almost like Gary is not doing a Hardcore Nuzlocke. We'll go ahead and speed through these gym trainer fights. We're feeling a lot more confident about this fight than the Sabrina fight. We've given Snorlax Zen Headbutt specifically for this gym. And they really do have an interesting mix of Pokemon at this gym. We've got Ghost types, we've got Psychic types, we obviously have Poison types. I always thought Ghost was a really unfortunate typing for Gen 1 specifically, because in the original Gen 1 games, every Ghost Pokemon is also a Poison type, which means that Psychic moves will be super effective against it. And then in addition to that, the Ghost type move pool is really small and not very good. I want to say it's like Lick, which is a super weak move, and Nightshade, which does a predetermined amount of damage based on your level. So Ghost is really not a viable type in the original Red Blue, which is sad. Ghosts are cool. Yeah, we're seeing a ground type now. The coverage is a lot better at this gym. We do a bit of healing up between gym trainer fights. And we always try to make sure we have lots and lots of healing items before we attempt to gym, knowing that we may have to use lots and lots of healing items to make our way through. Now we've got a grass poison type. with every gym trainer out of the way, we finish our last set of healing. And here is a look at what our team looks like at this point. As always, here's the IVs, EVs, natures, etc. And on to the Koga fight. Badge number 6. He leads with Crobat. And we are leading with Hypno. Now, Crobat is one of the fastest Pokemon in the game, so he's pretty much going to hit you here no matter what. Like, maybe my speed boosted Dugtrio would beat him with speed EVs? That's like the one exception I can think of. We go ahead and throw up a light screen. Which is possibly a mistake. I don't know if he's going to use a lot of special base moves here. And then yeah, because we used up a turn on the light screen, we aren't able to finish the Crobat off with just Hypno, so we switch on over into Steelix. Where we use Stealth Rock, knowing that we can get the hazards off as a result of Sturdy. And then while we're here, we might as well start crunching away because we haven't endured any hits yet. Brick Break tears through our light screen. So yeah, light screen was definitely not a good starting move. We switch on over to Tentacruel, thinking that he'll be more likely to resist the Brick Break. And we know that if we can force a bunch of switches, we can get maximal damage out of the entry hazards. And I think Stealth Rock honestly just confuses the AI. Like, there are several points where the AI just starts making switches in ways that don't really make sense to me, and I think it just doesn't know what to do when there are entry hazards on the field, which is super abusable. Koga has several flying types, so our Stealth Rock is doing pretty good damage here. Red card switches us out to Snorlax. We're happy that it didn't switch us out to Hypno. And Snorlax is happy to finish the job. Another Zen Headbutt for another finished job. One good Zen Headbutt deserves another, right? Koga hands over the Soul Badge. We are now 6-0 for gym fights, and not a single loss on our team yet. With that, we head on over to Cerulean City, now that we can surf outside of battle, and get a Star U encounter, which I believe is guaranteed at this point. I think I looked at the encounter pool here and specifically targeted areas in Pokemon to use up ones here such that I could guarantee a Starmie catch. The IVs are pretty bad, but Starmie is still a incredibly strong heavy hitter, and we're going to go ahead and name her after Ellie from Xenogears. Now we're over at Route 24, and we are able to get the Abra encounter, which we can trap with Haunter's Mean Look. Zero defense means this thing is going to fold over anything. And we're going to name him Orlando after the Final Fantasy Tactics character. And now we're actually heading over to Route 21 for I think these are called swarms, a swarm encounter. Basically, you can see on the overworld throughout the day, swarms in different areas appear. And kind of my rule for this was going to be like, I'm not going to specifically hunt them out, but if there happens to be a swarm in an area that I happen to be doing anyway, I will catch it. So I did catch the Whalmer swarm here, and I think I actually got swarms and alphas mixed up in my head, because I was definitely thinking that this Whalmer was going to have some perfect IVs, and it did not at all. So clearly I don't know what an alpha is. My PokeMMO lack of knowledge really showing off here. We go into the Safari Zone, where we go for another fishing encounter. This time we're picking up Slowpoke. I believe we were hoping for a Dratini encounter here. .30 special attack is not bad. Go ahead and name her Estelle after Trails in the Sky, our favorite ditzy queen. And now we are over at Cinnabar Island, turning in one of our fossils to revive an Aerodactyl. An Aerodactyl is going to be our Cinnabar Island encounter. Then it's off to Seafoam Islands for another encounter. We're doing a lot of fishing at this point. And now we've got Psyduck. I believe we're trying to use up a lot of the water encounters, that way we can guarantee a Dratini or a Dragonair encounter in a route that I haven't done yet. We head on over to the power plant to get our encounter here, which is a Coughing. We're definitely hoping to pick up Magnemite here because we totally blew our Magnemite encounter earlier and we were hoping to make up for it. Coughing's not bad though, I don't mind Coughing. And Route 10 is the encounter where we were trying to use up all of our water encounters to prepare for. We are able to get the Dragonair here. I think it's a lure encounter even. With Brave Attack, pretty incredible. Like, minus speed isn't great, but we love to see that plus attack on a Dragonite. Now we are heading over to Route 21, trying to do some EV training in bulk here. Because up until this point, we really haven't had a great way to get, I want to say it's like defense EVs that Tangela gives. So we go into this fight thinking, okay, we'll probably just like Earthquake them all to death. No, not at all. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is scary. Oh, we're definitely gonna lose Dugtrio. No, no, no! Oh my god, we needed to avoid that poison. We needed so much here. I cannot believe we lived through this. So this was definitely a mistake, and I don't do any more EV training here. I do it the long and hard way. Because my heart was absolutely racing at this point. I did not want to lose Dugtrio. We're still trying to make the most of it though, not running. We do want to get at least one set of EVs here. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to show you guys off another one of my too close for comfort encounters. And then we decide to just run, because, yeah, it's looking a bit sketch. We head on over to the Pokemon Mansion to get our encounter here, which is going to be a Vulpix. And then after some more training, we are on our way to the Cinnabar Island Gym. Now, even though we can do all of the trivia here to avoid all the trainer fights, and I'm pretty sure I could get them all right, we are gonna fight everyone. Do it the old-fashioned way. And this is also where I lost my last run. I had a Rapidash use Wild Charge against a Gyarados in a previous Hardcore Nuzlocke, and it absolutely train wrecked my run. I wasn't able to go back to the PC to switch out to another water type, so Blaine ended up taking out several more of my team members, and it was just a mess. So we were hoping to redeem ourselves a bit here and not make the same mistakes this time. This time we've got Starmie, which is a lot quicker than Gyarados, although probably still not quicker than a Rapidash. We also have Kingdra. You can see we're going in with multiple water types this time. Last time I really just had the one. I thought Gyarados would carry it for me, and I totally wasn't prepared to just get outsped and one-hit KO'd. The move coverage in this game is absolutely insane. Speeding right along, this might be the guy. This might be the guy who ruined my last run. I can't quite recall. Yeah, take that, take that. Or it might have been this guy, actually. Super Nerd feels like the guy who would have a electric type move on his Rapidash. Surprisingly not being deployed today, though. Not that I'm complaining. Here comes another Rapidash. Yeah, I honestly don't remember. Any of these three Rapidashes could have Wild Charge. For all I know, all three of them have Wild Charge. We didn't see any today, though. And with Blaine's trainers snuffed out, we heal up one last time. You can take a look at our team going into the fight. We are not even bringing Gyarados this time. Why risk it? That Gyarados is too good to risk. full half of our team is gift Pokemon, for better or for worse. I think this run is pretty repeatable because the Pokemon that I rely on are actually almost all gift Pokemon heading towards the end. Okay, here comes Blaine leading with his Ninetales. We are starting off with Steelix, obviously hoping to get our Stealth Rock off and really do like half of the work here all by itself. We eat a Fire Blast, but it's no problem with our Sturdy. Now we know we've got to switch out to someone who will resist the next Fire Blast, or double resist it in Kingdra's case. Yeah, Kingdra is absolutely incredible pickup for a Nuzlocke of any kind. It's actually hitting with all of these Fire Blasts despite the lower accuracy of it compared to Flamethrower. We go ahead and get an Agility off, figuring it's basically a free move, like we're going to get outsped by everyone unless we use it anyway, but if we use it we'll start going first, so I'm just trading a little bit of momentum to go first going forward. There goes Ninetales. And here comes the Arcanine. But our Stealth Rock brings it down to 75%, and the Intimidate doesn't matter against Kingdra, and Surf finishes the job. Here comes Blaine's Rapidash. This one almost certainly knows Wild Charge. We outspeed it with 1 agility. I think that's noteworthy. And a crit secures the kill. Next up is Magmar, also down to 75% with the rocks, and also finished off with 1 Surf. And this is going so much smoother than my last playthrough. I am incredibly grateful at this point. Third time is a charm. We go for the Surf and do the remaining 75% of Magcargo's health, securing our 7th gym badge, still with no deaths. He gives us the Fire Blast TM, which we will never use because we don't like inaccurate moves. And at this point we are 83 hours into the run, the longest PokeMMO playthrough in history. And now we are going back to the fighting gym because we've realized that the Lapras isn't tagged with Saffron, but is instead tagged with Sylph Co, which means we can get a Saffron encounter, and it's going to be Hitmonlee. Who will nickname Faye, another Xenogears character. With Blaine out of the way, we head on over to the Numbered Islands, starting off with Mount Ember. And we encounter a fateful trainer battle here. A devastatingly fateful encounter, let's say. Pokemon Ranger Logan sends out Exeggutor. I'm thinking, okay, Ice Beam should be fine here. We outlevel it by 5. Not the case, but you know what does one-hit KO? Exeggutor's Leaf Storm, destroying one of my most valuable team members, Starmie. This is the first real hit of the run, our first death, although it won't be our last. Now at this point I'm looking at what's left of the routes that I still haven't caught anything, and I'm seeing if Starmie appears at any of those routes, because I thought duplicates claws or species claws meant that you're allowed to catch a dupe, but you don't have to. I didn't realize most people play it where it prevents you from catching the Pokemon. So I do go on to replace this Starmie later, but I don't go on to use it for any important fights. Alright, going into the heart of Mount Ember, we pick up our encounter, which is a Magcargo. And we also picked up a Meowth at one island, which we're going to nickname Sweetie after one of my cats. It has the pickup ability, which is super helpful for money grinding in PokeMMO. I haven't done it, but so I hear. And you can see a little bit of what my bench looks like. I think I've showed most of the catches, but you can go ahead and pause and take a look here. I end up naming the Magcargo Eska, kind of like the Avatar character, but also kind of short for like Escargo. I know, I'm sorry. Okay, and we do look at that Starmie encounter list and see that we can get one with the Super Rod here on one island, so we do so. Minus special defense means we're probably going to get one hit KO'd eventually in a similar situation, but the IVs are actually a significant improvement over the one I had before. We are going to nickname her Helly after the Severance character. Next we have an encounter at Cape Brink where we catch a Sparrow, which seems a little bit weird to catch this late in the run, and honestly at 39 it feels like it should be a Fearow. We go ahead and name her Wendy, not after anything in particular, just Wendy is kind of like windy. And then here is a difficult fight for a Nuzlocke, the bicycle gang fight at 3 Island, where you have to fight several trainers back to back to back without any opportunity to heal in between. And already one fight in, it looks like our lead is pretty heavily hurt. We really don't want to risk losing the Hypno. Thinking Hypno might be super important against the fighting type Elite Four member, Bruno. Now we've got 2 Pokemon that are pretty heavily injured and one that is a little bit injured. We take advantage of the excellent typing of Ground. Earthquake, incredibly powerful, incredibly accurate, and Ground is just a really good type. This guy's got 5 Pokemon. I'm basically down to 3 that feel safe to use. He immediately knocks Victory Bell down to half. I'm sweating at this point, you guys. Especially after just losing Starmie, we're feeling vulnerable. We rode the high of the Deathless Run for 7 badges, but we couldn't maintain it. Wheezing with the flamethrower, type coverage absolutely insane in this game. I know I've said it before and I'm gonna keep saying it. Dark Pulse is 98%, almost, but not quite. Needed one more Calm Mind for that. Ursaring? What are you doing here, bud? You're in the wrong generation. I say as I use Kingdra and Steelix. Rules for thee, but not for me. And we are able to finish off this biker, which is thankfully the last one, so deathless as far as that goes. Next is our Bond Bridge encounter, which is a Venonat. With Timid Nature, that's pretty good. And Perfect Speed. We nickname our Venonat Cecilia after a Wild Arms character. And then it's on to the next encounter in Berry Forest, where we get an Execute of our own. I love Executor, so I'm hoping for the best here. Neutral nature, honestly exciting. But then the IVs are possibly the worst out of any Pokemon we've caught in the entire run, so that is super disappointing. And we nickname her Quistis after the Final Fantasy VIII character. And then after all that, all these new catches, a bit of loss, we're on to the 8th and final gym, which is of course Giovanni, the ground type. And Gary has made his way even through this secret locked gym already. He must have been waiting at the door when I did whatever I needed to do to get that unlocked, beat the 7th gym. Probably the most noteworthy thing in this gym is Giovanni's Arena Trap Dugtrio, and we brought Venusaur specifically to deal with that, thinking Leech Seed would make it easier to deal with the Dugtrio because it's got like Focus Band or Focus Sash, the item that lets you live with 1 health if you would get 1 hit KO'd. So ideally we would want to Leech Seed and then hit it with another move. We've also given Venusaur a powerful life stealing move, Giga Drain. So we want to be healing as much as we can with leftovers, Leech Seed, Giga Drain. That way we can withstand Giovanni's Arena Trap. I think the level cap here is 51, which puts us a little bit over the gym trainers, which is pretty helpful. But since there are more gym trainers than ever, we have to be mindful about how much experience we're going to be gaining going through them, and we sort of have to carefully plan which Pokemon we're going to be sending out, because we don't want a valuable member like Venusaur ending up with too much experience and leveling up beyond the cap. So I did have the wiki open and I knew which Pokemon the trainers had, but it doesn't mention the abilities, so I am completely blindsided and unprepared for this Dugtrio with Arena Trap. We take care of Graveler, but it hangs on with the Sturdy. The value of Sturdy is very, very high. It uses Explosion, bringing our Kingdra likely down quite low. Yep, down to about a third. And then here it comes, the deadly Arena Trap Dugtrio, ready to trap me and finish the job. I had a Pokemon prepared for Arena Trap. It even would have been effective against Sturdy Graveler, but I honestly just didn't know that was something I had to be prepared for. So I'll never make that mistake again if I ever do something like this again. Do your research, because now I am losing Kingdra. Our second loss of the run. Starmie and Kingdra. And at this point we're starting to wonder if we might have some issues against Giovanni, because Kingdra was a pretty critical member of our team. We're also starting to wonder if we might have problems at the Elite Four, because I was thinking that Kingdra might be a valuable Ice Beam user. But we can't worry about that quite yet. We have to worry about making it out of this gym alive. Earthquake doing an uncomfortable amount of damage, but we're glad that we can heal. And here comes another sturdy Pokemon. Which we are able to take out no problem. But yeah, pretty brutal trainer fight. Absolutely devastating loss. R.I.P. Kingdra, I will miss you. You will be remembered. Okay, speeding things along again, we head on into the next fight, prepare the appropriate lead. And there's a lot of moving items around in the Hardcore Nuzlocke. Since you can't use items in battle, you are limited to held items, which makes your usage of those held items all the more important. So we're quite often putting leftovers on whatever tank we think is going to be most helpful for the upcoming fight. You do get 2 leftovers, which is helpful, 1 under each of the Snorlaxes. I think that's possibly one argument for doing the Kanto region first if you are going to attempt something like this. And I think this is another gym where we don't bring Gyarados in, even though Gyarados is obviously quite powerful, just because we're worried about all these surprise Thunderbolts or Wild Charges or whatever it may be. You know, we've got that ancestral trauma from the previous run. Here is our team going into the Giovanni fight. All 5 of them. Oh. We're running with 4 out of 5 gift Pokemon. Giovanni leads with Rhyperior. And we are starting off with Venusaur. We were really hoping he was going to lead with Dugtrio here. That way we could get the problem Pokemon out of the way. However, Rhyperior has not very great special defenses and is 4 times weak to grass, so we are able to get an easy knockout here. Giovanni switches to Nidoqueen, and at this point we have to use a little bit more strategy. We go ahead and get the Leech Seed off because we know that she's got a ton of health. And stealing, is it like 12% or so per turn, is actually going to be pretty beneficial in terms of healing. Especially combined with our leftovers, it almost mitigates the damage that Nidoqueen is doing. We go ahead and put her to sleep so we can heal up a little more. She has a leftovers of her own. At this point, the AI is not messing around. You know, they've got leftovers, they've got their focus bands, or focus sash, they've got good IVs, they've got good move coverage, they're prepared. Nidoqueen wakes up and ice beams us, and thankfully we are not frozen. We're able to Giga Drain to restore any of the health that we've lost so far. Nidoqueen hangs on with just 1 or 2 health. Before Leech Seed finishes her off. Here comes the Nidoking. He's reluctant to send out the Dugtrio because he knows that Venusaur is well equipped to deal with it. And once again, we're getting the Leech Seed off because we really want to keep Venusaur healed up to full. And we've done a mixed EV train here. Like, he's got some EVs into defense, some into special defense, and some into health. And all of those EVs really come into play in this fight. And I think if I went with a different spread, it's possible some of these moves could have knocked me out, or a crit could have knocked me out. So I'm very thankful for deciding to train Venusaur that way. Because yeah, that flamethrower hurts, and I think without those special defense EVs, it probably kills me. We're crossing our fingers, we're praying, the Poke Gods reward us with the 75% accuracy sleep. And we consider switching, but we know that Arena Trap Dugtrio is still out there, and we don't want to lose another team member to it. It would feel so bad to lose two different Pokemon in the same way in the same gym. So we have to rely on the heal here. You know, we went with Giga Drain over Petal Dance specifically so we could do stuff like this, and it's working. Everything is falling into place. The Dugtrio comes out. We know what to do here. We've planned for this. We go for the sleep powder here instead of the leech seed because I really want to recover more than what leech seed will allow, which I know is a risky play, but it does pay off here. And then we get that leech seed in. Before we start hammering away with Giga Drain. And finally, all Giovanni has left is Rhydon, which after we've already taken care of Rhyperior, we're really not too concerned about. We know that Giga Drain will just one punch, knock it out, and it does. We defeat Giovanni and get our 8th and final badge. We've got 2 deaths so far this run. Several close calls. But this is where things start really getting scary and really heating up. We go on to our last rival fight before the Elite Four. Gary leads with Pidgeot, and we are starting with Steelix, hoping to get the Stealth Rock off and really put some hurt on Charizard, because we've seen it do half of Charizard's health before. Gary sees this coming, switches to the Charizard before I get the Stealth Rock off. But we do get the Stealth Rock off. But we know Steelix won't be very effective against Charizard, so we make the switch into Gyarados here. The Intimidate is helpful, and it's helpful to resist the incoming Fire-type move, which Gyarados does. And we manage to get the Waterfall off. Gary does not switch the Charizard out. He probably knows that he's going to take half health damage on it anyway next time it comes out. Here comes the Leafeon. At this point we've got Ice Fang to help with our coverage. We use that, no flinch, no freeze, and we have to eat a Leaf Blade here. Which does more damage than I'm comfortable with. Gary takes Leafeon out. I'm happy for any and all switches. You know, those rocks are going to do work. Intimidate on Venusaur is irrelevant. And another switch. We love to see it. We love to see it. The AI does more switches than ever when you have Stealth Rocks out. So we're going to do some switches of our own. You know, every switch is a beneficial trade for us. So if we can correctly predict the attacks and make the right switches at the right times, we can let Stealth Rock do the bulk of the work of the fight. Pidgeot uses Hurricane and confuses my Lapras, but he is able to use Ice Beam anyway to finish the bird off. Gary sends in Alakazam. Now that's a heavy hitter. And there's really only one move here. We gotta switch to Umbreon. Hope that Alakazam uses a Psychic type move, and it does. And we know we can use Payback here to just absolutely demolish the Alakazam. And we do. That's 3 down, 3 to go. With Entry Hazard on the field, here comes Gary's Rhydon. Stone's doing a little bit less damage this time because of the resistance. But at this point, Venusaur has killed Rhydon and Rhyperior recently in one hit, so we know to swap. But Gary makes a switch of his own over into Gyarados. We're not terribly bothered by this. We go ahead and Leech Seed the Gyarados. That way he'll either have his health continually drained or have to make another switch, which will of course damage anything he brings in. A critical hit Ice Fang does almost half of Venusaur's health, but we are able to heal a bit with Giga Drain, and again with Leech Seed. And again with Leftovers. The healing Venusaur is very strong. Very, very strong. Leafeon is going to use Synthesis to try to heal up some of that damage. And we get a Giga Drain, which obviously doesn't do a ton of health, but it does help heal us a bit more. And we're not sure if grass Pokemon are completely immune to Leech Seed or not, so we actually try to do a Leech Seed here, and they are, which I know now. It feels a little silly making such a novice mistake this late into the run. We go ahead and switch out to Umbreon, who is by far our tankiest Pokemon, and the Leaf Blade thankfully does less than a third. At this point we switch into Snorlax. I think this is probably a mistake. We should have used a move of some kind here, because Snorlax takes about just as much damage from the Leaf Blade as Umbreon does. But I think part of my thinking here was that I valued Umbreon higher. Like, I know for sure I want to bring Umbreon with me to the Elite Four. I would love to bring both, but if one of them has to go here, it's going to be Snorlax. The Stab Return does about half of Leafeon's health, so we are in a bit of a standoff here. Although Synthesis has relatively low PP, so he won't be able to do this indefinitely. And yeah, he switches to Leaf Blade, bringing Snorlax dangerously close. And we make the switch over to Venusaur. Who we we know we'll be able to finish the job against Leafeon, who can no longer heal, and against Rhydon, who should just get one-hit KO'd. There's the Rhydon, and there is the Giga Drain one-hit KO. And with that, our second to last rival fight is complete. By no means an easy fight. We start making our way through Victory Road, where we get another capture. This one's going to be a Rhyhorn of our own. Jolly Nature is decent. We're probably not going to be outspeeding anything anyway. 0 HP kind of hurts, but Rhyperior is so strong that I think it's worth training this guy up anyway. We make our way through the Victory Road trainers and nickname our Rhyhorn Lyn, another Avatar reference. Then we go all the way back to Route 3, where we attempt a Lure Charmander encounter. Instead, we run into the Zubat, which we capture. It has terrible IVs. And then we go to replace our Kingdra here at Route 23. And I think I've got everything on the encounter table here. So I go ahead and catch another Seadra to replace my dead one. We name the Zubat after Brittany. And we name the Seadra after Rudy, a Wild Arms character. And here is me defeating the rest of the Victory Road trainers without losing anyone. Well, we get one last catch here at Route 18, which is a Dugtrio. Dugtrio is a Pokemon that should not be underestimated. This thing hits fast and it hits hard. We're going to name her Virginia, yet another Wild Arms reference. And finish off the rest of the Victory Road trainers, one of which is a double battle. And then all that's left is to do the Elite Four. Now we're bringing in as many tanks as we can. We're bringing in Umbreon, we're bringing in Venusaur, we got Rhyperior now, we got Snorlax. Honestly, all of my Pokemon except for Gyarados are pretty tanky, which I feel like is the most important thing against the Elite Four. Like, if you are the same level or just a couple levels higher, you're probably not going to be able to one-hit KO and sweep the Elite Four safely. So I valued tankiness really high for this run. We're leading with Umbreon, hoping that with his high special defense, we'll be able to get Calm Minds off and hopefully sweep. So we get to work on implementing that strategy. And it's looking pretty good. Like, we have Moonlight, we can heal back up if we need to. Lapras uses Ice Beam and thankfully doesn't freeze me. We get another Calm Mind off and heal back up a bit. Ice Beam is now only doing 6% of my health. Now that we have the max number of Calm Minds off, we can begin to get to work with the damage. Dark Pulse brings Lapras down to less than half. And another Dark Pulse to finish the job. Now the level cap here is based on Lance's Ace Pokemon's level. So as long as you enter the Elite Four with all of your Pokemon at that level or lower, you're fine. It's okay to level up in the process of the Elite Four, and I actually think that's something you should incorporate into your strategy if you can. And I'm hoping to get that done with Umbreon. I want to get Umbreon as high as possible. That way when I get to the rival fight, where the levels are actually higher than Lance's, I am adequately prepared. A couple Dark Pulses make short work of Dugong. We are now healed almost all the way back up to full. And Lorelai sends out Cloyster. She hits me with an Icicle Spear, which hits brutally hard. Our defense isn't nearly as good as our special defense, and I believe the Cloyster is guaranteed to hit 5 times every time. But thankfully, its special defense isn't the greatest either, so we are able to one-shot it. Lorelai sends out Jinx, and we take some time to heal back up to full. And then we go back to Dark Pulsing. We're able to one-hit KO the Jinx, leaving only the Slowbro, which is weak to our Dark-type Umbreon. So it falls just as easily. Meaning our first Elite Four member has been defeated, and so far we haven't lost any of our Pokemon. Things are looking good. We're very nervous going into the next fight because it is probably the most deadly one, and we know that going in. We're relying on Umbreon, we want to lead with Umbreon, we want to sweep with Umbreon, but we know we can't do that against Bruno because the fighting type moves will just tear me apart, and I don't have a way to raise defense right now. I'd considered going in with some TMs for moves that might allow me to boost my defense, but it felt a bit risky, so I ended up not going that way. Doing a little bit of last minute preparation for the fight, moving some held items around. We want to make sure the leftovers is on the tanks that we'll be using. We're hoping to not have to use Umbreon at all, but we do want to put an item on Umbreon just in case we do need to send him out. We decide to go with the experience share because, as I mentioned, we really want Umbreon to be the highest level possible by the time we get to the rival fight. and I don't think I'll be able to deploy Umbreon in this fight, or rather I don't think it would be wise to deploy Umbreon in this fight. So we'll use Experience Share just to give him a little bit of that experience. Next up is Bruno, who leads with his Poliwrath. We are leading with Rhyperior, so this is obviously not a great lead for us. It's quite likely that Poliwrath can do a 4 times water damage move. Yep. But we're thinking that Rhyperior's defenses are enough to withstand just 1 hit, and they are. They are enough to just withstand 1 hit. And we have our Stealth Rock off. We went with Rhyperior as our Stealth Rocks user instead of Steelix, because we were hoping to benefit a little bit from her offensive power, where Steelix is absolutely lacking in that. We know we would have to be extra careful because we don't have that sturdy ability. I switch over to the Gyarados and try to set up a Dragon Dance so that I can hopefully sweep the rest of his team. But with no way to heal and none of my moves being super or even regular effective, I try for a Waterfall, which he actually absorbs. I did not know this Poliwrath had Water Absorb. So now we're switching over to Crunch. But really feeling the heat. Not sure if we can take another Ice Beam. Definitely can't take a critted Ice Beam. So we switch on over to Venusaur, who takes an Ice Beam of his own. Poliwrath is slowly healing up what little damage we've done to it, and knocks Venusaur down to about half with another Ice Beam. We're able to heal a bit of that up with the Giga Drain strategy, as we both heal up with our leftovers. And we're getting very lucky that we're not frozen on any of these Ice Beams. We finish off the Poliwrath with the Giga Drain. And now Bruno sends out Hitmonchan. The Stealth Rocks are a little bit helpful here, but not nearly as helpful as in some of the other fights. So it's entirely possible that I should have went with a different lead here, looking back. We go for the Sleep Powder to put Hitmonchan to sleep. And then we're hoping to heal a bit while sleeping, but tragically, he switches over to Hitmonlee. With leftovers, we're back at about half health, and thinking about whether Hitmonlee can do 50% of my health with any single move, and whether he would need a crit to do that or not. He uses a Fake Out, strengthened by a normal gem. And at less than half, we're thinking we have to make a switch at this point. we don't have a lot of good options. Ice is weak to fighting, normal's weak to fighting, dark is weak to fighting. We knew this would be probably our most challenging fight. We switch into a Lapras and get one hit KO'd by a high jump kick. And then we switch into Gyarados, hoping the Intimidate will make the future blows hit a little bit less hard. And then finish it off with a Waterfall. Now we've got Hitmonchan, and even though it's sleeping, we are definitely worried about the Thunder Punch. We're thinking, can Waterfall do enough damage? He's already been hurt a little bit by Stealth Rocks. Would it be better to make a switch and hopefully save Gyarados' life? We make the switch to Rhyperior, knowing that an electric move would likely be coming and we would be immune to it. And it wakes up, uses a close combat, and finishes off Rhyperior before she can do anything. We've now lost 2 Pokemon to Bruno. Our odds of success are looking grim. We send out the Gyarados to get an Intimidate off. Then switching back to Snorlax, hoping we can tank the lowered attack Hitmonchan. He uses close combat and absolutely destroys Snorlax. I was not expecting this. I thought even if he hit me with the close combat, with my defensive EVs, with my HP EVs, that I would be able to withstand it, and that was not the case. We are now 3 down in the second of 5 fights. Things are looking grim. Things are looking worse than grim. This could be the end for my A-team. Machamp uses a Stone Edge because he's got excellent type coverage, knocking out our 4th Pokemon, leaving us with only Umbreon and only Venusaur left. Earthquake does a pretty big chunk of damage, but we're able to get a Sleep Powder off. And we switch to Giga Drain knowing that we need to heal every little bit that we can. It's down to just 2. We need to make every move, every HP count. More healing. Let's get back up above half health. Machamp remains asleep, and we're able to get enough Giga Drains off to finish him off and heal up to about 3/4 health. Bruno sends out his final Pokemon, Steelix. We put it to sleep with our 75% accuracy Sleep Powder, which we're having to rely on more than we want in the Elite Four. Like, you don't want to be relying on 75% accuracy moves during these fights. Steelix is able to take several Giga Drains, but just as importantly, we are able to heal up basically to full with all of our healing moves and our held item. Steelix does wake up and get an earthquake off, but at this point it is too late. Even getting an extra move off, with all the healing I've done, I'm able to withstand the hit and finish Steelix off. What an insane battle. 4 deaths to Bruno, the second Elite Four member. All we have left is Venusaur and Umbreon. The game heals you automatically after every fight, so we just have to keep in mind that our only 2 Pokemon are Venusaur and Umbreon. We put them towards the top of the list. Up next is Agatha. Agatha I'm a bit less worried about, with Umbreon being the Pokemon we're relying on and Dark being super effective against Ghost. This should be a pretty easy fight, hopefully, compared to the last one. She does lead with Arbok, which is probably her best lead here, but immediately switches to Weezing. We start Sludge Bombing Umbreon. We know we intend to boost our special defense, so we're pretty happy about this turn of events. We get off another Calm Mind before Weezing poisons us. And we have to start using Moonlight, a move that only has 8 PP, and only because I used as many PP maxes or PP ups as I could. Basically everyone I found, I used on Moonlight. We sneak in another Calm Mind. Getting harder to do with the poison now. But Sludge Bomb is down to about 8% health. And at this point we have to Moonlight again. But with Sludge Bomb only doing 6% of my health, I'm feeling pretty safe at this point. We're going to use our third Moonlight just to get back up to full here. And now we can start on the Dark Pulse, which is enough to one-hit KO the Weezing. Agatha sends out her Crobat. And then switches to Gengar, which we happily one-hit KO with the Dark Pulse on the switch. The Crobat comes out again. We've got to use a Moonlight, but it gets in a U-turn first. Switching over to Arbok. Since we can't boost our defense, that U-turn is probably the scariest thing she has. It hits even harder than Rock Slide. So we Moonlight back up all the way to full again. We're forced to use Payback because Dark Pulse is disabled. And we're flinched anyway. After recovering from being disabled, we switch on over to Dark Pulse. But another flinch from the Arbok. It must be holding like King's Rock or something. It goes for Rock Slide while we go for the heal. And at this point we are running quite low on PP for Moonlight. We're grateful that the game heals in between, but we do have all of our PP restoring items, so that even if that weren't the case, we would be able to heal Moonlight's PP back up and have it at full for every fight. Agatha sends out Crobat again, and at this point we're expecting the U-turn. She switches into her final Pokemon, Mismagius. We use Dark Pulse after another Moonlight, because we know another U-turn is coming. Quite likely back-to-back U-turns if we can't one-hit KO it. He gets a crit hit on the U-turn, and Dark Pulse is not enough to one-hit KO, so it's a good thing we did heal back there. Crobat uses U-turn for the final time, and we're able to finish it off with Dark Pulse. That is our third Elite Four member down, this time taking no losses, still down to just Umbreon and just Venusaur. We head on to our fourth and final Elite Four member, Lance, who has a very intimidating looking arena. Strategy is going to be the same going forward. Lead with Umbreon, try to get Calm Mind off, and hope that's enough. Lance leads with Gyarados, and we're going to begin by trying with a little bit of Payback. Because this is not a Pokemon that we can set up Calm Mind against. It gets an Aqua Tail off, bringing us down to a little over half. But we very fortunately have the ability to heal, which we do while Lance switches over to Dragonite. So we are able to heal while Lance switches over to Dragonite. This is a Pokemon that we might be able to set up against because his strong move is going to be Draco Meteor, which is a special attack based move. The Dragon Claw does hurt quite a bit. And tragically that one is attack based. We have to heal up here. We're relying on Moonlight to carry this fight, but we haven't even knocked out a single Pokemon yet, and we've already had to use 2, now 3 Moonlight PP. We go for the Dark Pulse to see how much damage it'll do, and it looks like it's about a third of Dragonite's health. We're forced to heal back up again with Moonlight. At this point we can expect that it's going to be Dragon Claw over and over as long as he can. So we do another Dark Pulse to get him down to 1/3. And then finally one more Moonlight just to make sure we're prepared for the next Pokemon. And finally one last Dark Pulse to finish the Dragonite off. Umbreon growing to level 59. Every one of those levels is important. Lance switches back to the Gyarados. We go for the Dark Pulse. Now it's within range of one Dark Pulse to finish it off. We managed to avoid an attack here and get a Moonlight, healing us back up to full. Dark Pulse to finish the job. And now Lance sends out Aerodactyl, which has pressure, which is definitely going to hurt our Moonlight consumption. It begins with Sky Attack. And then it only takes one turn to use because of the Power Herb. We use Dark Pulse, bringing it down to half health. And we're going to go for the Moonlight here. Even though it is using up 2 PP, we can't risk being in crit range of somebody. If Umbreon goes down, the whole run is lost. Looks like it only used 1 PP, maybe it's only for attacking moves. And we're able to finish off the Aerodactyl with Dark Pulse. Now Lance sends out Charizard. We go for the Dark Pulse knowing that Charizard is likely a mixed attacker. But seeing the Air Slash, we do go for a Calm Mind here. And we know it would take 2 more Dark Pulses to kill the Charizard, so it's safer to get 1 Calm Mind and Dark Pulse. That way I can carry those stats going forward into the next Pokemon, which is Kingdra. Now Kingdra is a Pokemon that we can safely set up against. The only one we can safely set up against, which is why Lance saved it for last. We begin setting up through our confusion. It uses Dragon Pulse for a pitiful amount of damage, and we once again elude our confusion to get a Calm Mind off. At this point we're at +5 with the Calm Mind. We snap out of our confusion and bring it all the way up to +6. Moonlight to heal up the damage. And then it should be a simple matter of Dark Pulsing the Kingdra to death. Even if we hurt ourselves in confusion, that won't be enough for Kingdra to defeat me. Although it does confuse me again, and Dark Pulse does a whopping 87% of Kingdra's health. We get another hit of confusion. Before finally finishing the Kingdra off. We have now defeated all 4 Elite Four members, and while we've suffered heavy losses, we still have Umbreon and Venusaur. There is still a slim possibility that we can beat Gary here. Our strategy was kind of dependent on Stealth Rock from Rhyperior, but we're going to do everything we can to try to make it through this fight. If we can make it through this fight, we would be the first person in the world to do a hardcore Nuzlocke of PokeMMO in any region. Champion Gary sends out Pidgeot. We lead with our ace Umbreon. And begin the setup. He switches over to Charizard while we do our Calm Mind. Charizard uses Hurricane and misses while we get another Calm Mind off. So far so good. Gary does a switch allowing us to get +3 on Calm Mind. This may actually work. We may actually do this. Gyarados' Aqua Tail misses, allowing us to get a 4th Calm Mind off. Aqua Tail misses again, letting us get a 5th Calm Mind off. He hits for the 3rd, but at this point, we now have 6 Calm Minds off, which means we just need to keep our health up and blast through his Pokemon with Dark Pulse. One more Aqua Tail brings me down to a little more than half, and we heal up with Moonlight to full, now sitting at +6 special attack, +6 special defense. Dark Pulse is a 2-hit KO for Gyarados. There goes the first hit. We Moonlight again, knowing he's going to use Aqua Tail. Back up to full. Can't take any chances, not after going this far. He brings me down to about 75% and I finish off the Gyarados with Dark Pulse. He sends out Rhyperior. Definitely his hardest hitting attacker. We go for the Dark Pulse, doing 94%, but not quite enough to kill the Rhyperior, and its Earthquake only does 28% because of our EV spread, and because our defenses are so high. We go for another Moonlight to get back up to full, knowing he can only do about 30% of my health. And then we finish off his Rhyperior with another Dark Pulse. At this point things are looking better and better. We're going through his attackers. Eventually he'll only have special attack left, and at that point it will be over. Pidgeot comes back out and uses Return. Hurt by its own Life Orb, and then hurt by Dark Pulse, which combined with the Life Orb damage is enough to knock it out. We're half done. We've knocked out 3 of his Pokemon. Charizard comes back out. We go for the Moonlight, going back up to full health because we don't want to risk anything. Hurricane can barely hit us at this point. Dark Pulse, on the other hand, hits hard. Charizard recovers with Citrus Berry, but not enough to withstand another Dark Pulse. We manage to avoid a Hurricane, not like it matters at this point, and Charizard is knocked out of the battle. This is it, the final 2. Champion Gary sends out Alakazam. This should be an easy one for us. It uses Shadow Ball for an abysmal 2.5%. We use Payback and shockingly it lives. It starts to recover, but we pivot to Dark Pulse, because we want to see how much damage that does in comparison to Payback, and it looks like it does more, and it looks like it does enough to knock the Alakazam out, which means 1 Leafeon is all that stands between me and completing the Hardcore Nuzlocke. It uses a Leaf Blade, knocking me down to 66%. And 1 Dark Pulse finishes the Leafeon off, Umbreon completely sweeping rival champion Gary all by himself after almost a crushing defeat from Bruno. Absolutely wild, absolutely wild. Professor Oak comes to let us know that we are the new Pokemon League champion. We go to register our Pokemon into the Hall of Fame, even though 4 of them are regrettably dead. They will be immortalized forever. Thank you, all of you. My Pokemon, thank you for watching. If you've been along for this whole journey, especially thank you. 95 hours, and I'm the league champion. And that is the PokeMMO Hardcore Nuzlocke run. This playthrough took a long time for me to accomplish, and this video took a long time for me to edit, So if you enjoyed watching, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And also let me know what type of content you might like to see in the future. Should I try to hardcore Nuzlocke another region? Should I try to do that with this account or start a new one? Either way, after all this, I'll probably take a bit of a break before playing any more PokeMMO. Thank you so much for watching. Be good to each other, and smell you later.